You're set to throw renters to the wolves. Today, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael will push through your rent hikes bill, and it will be devastating. Previously, in rent pressure zones, any increase was set at the rate of inflation or a 2% increase, whichever was the lower. But you're tearing that up and you're opening up the floodgates. From March the 1st, you will allow rent for new tenancies to be reset to full market rate. A hammer blow for ripped-off renters and a gift for big landlords and vulture funds. It will mean huge rent hikes, it will mean increased pressure for renters, it will mean more young people forced to choose between emigrating or moving home with their parents, and shamefully, more families and children pushed into homelessness. Up to 60,000 renters will be hit by a huge rent hike every single year. That's the hard truth. Of course, your defence of this bill is that 6-year tenancies will protect renters, but they won't. You see, 25% of tenancies in any given year are new tenancies because people move in and move on all the time. And Taoiseach, most tenancies here last 3.5 years, not 6. So the majority of renters will be hit quickly and hit again and again. In truth, very few renters will escape these hikes. It will also be a nightmare for people who feel that they have to stay put for fear of having to pay a hugely increased rent on a new tenancy. A nightmare for students, for apprentices, for trainees, for nurses, teachers, for anyone who moves frequently for work or for education. You know, 7,000 Irish medical professionals were registered to work in Australia last year. And if your bill goes through, we will lose many, many more, because the rent hikes will be off the charts. It's straight out of the Fianna Fáil Fine Gael playbook, giving a big payday to landlords and vulture funds and screwing over ordinary tenants. If you gave a damn about renters at all, you would end this rip-off, not fuel it. You would ban rent increases, you would make rents affordable. Taoiseach, renters have known for a long time that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael simply don't have their backs. For over a decade now, you have allowed them to be ripped off relentlessly and mercilessly, but you're crossing a big red line here. A bill to allow rents to be increased by 3, 4 or 5,000 euros. That will do incredible damage to people's lives. It cannot go ahead. And I am urging you to scrap this rent hikes bill.
The Housing Commission recommended a reform of the rent pressure zones. They came up with an idea around reference pricing, didn't detail it and so on. The Housing Agency then was asked to review the rent pressure zones, and it did. And they recommended the nature of the changes that the Minister has introduced in terms of rentals, the reform of the rent pressure zone, which will give stability, clarity and certainty to renters and to landlords into the future. With a view to, first of all, in terms of existing renters, I mean, it could be up to 500,000 people, according to the census, renting, from social renting to private tenancies, and up to 240,000 more private tenancies. Those tenancies will not be impacted by this bill. That's the first thing I have to say. They will not be impacted by this bill. And there are very important protections which the Deputy has deliberately ignored in respect of these measures. The 6 years gives a security of tenure that we never had in this country before, and aligns us more with European rental systems in terms of giving tenants greater security and greater protection. The Minister and the Government have taken a decision to balance this in terms of greater security, and it's unquestionably greater security for tenants. And the proof of the pudding is the number of property organisations and landlords wanting to end it or to change our proposals. And it's interesting that Sinn Féin are defending landlords and property owners who want to get rid of this, who don't want this to go through today. That's the bottom line. They don't want it to go through today, and you're trying to usher it in because you're interested in chaos. But supply is also important, Deputy. Scarcity of supply will be the most impactful thing on prices over the medium term. You know that. You have no interest in supply, and you've demonstrated no interest for quite some time.
So just to explain to the Taoiseach, who clearly can't grasp this very simple concept, There is no security of tenure if you can't afford the rent.
Hear, hear.
That's it. You see, when rents climb and climb and climb and you just can't make it month after month after month, that's not secure. That's a recipe for chaos in your life. That is a recipe for driving people either to Dublin or Shannon or Cork Airport and Harsall far, far away to live their lives, or in the case of families, drive them into homelessness. And you have made a decision, and you've made it very, very clear whose side you're on. You're on the side of very large corporate landlords, not just any common or garden landlord, no, no. The large ones and the vulture funds. They want market rate and you are giving it to them on a silver platter. I've told you, most tenancies don't last 6 years. They average at 3.5, and 25% of tenancies every single year are brand new. Answer that, Taoiseach.
Tell you, Deputy, you couldn't care less about whether we provide more houses for the young people of this country, because every policy, you're against everything, you are against every proposal, you're full of soundbite, you're full of shallow... It's not the truth. I'm telling you now where you are. You've opposed every single thing in this for the last 4 years in relation to housing here. Opposed all the affordable schemes we came up with that was trying to help young people. And the bottom line here, through the chair, Count Corley, is we need supply, and we do have to have a rental framework that facilitates investment, that facilitates greater supply of housing. And what you're ignoring is 500,000 people currently renting in Ireland today will not be impacted by these measures, because there's a lot of protections built in here. A national rent protection zone is there at 2%. ESRI recommended 4%, actually. So these are modest measures designed to get clarity, stability, but above all, to bring supply. Because if you don't have supply, prices will rise without question. And you have never answered the question of supply.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
You're just barren in terms of any ideas or any substance around that issue.